Welcome back to another edition of Research Fantasy Presents the NBA Fantasy Baller DFS edition. I'm Nick from CWE. It's Saturday, March 18th, 2017. I'm going to try to keep this short as I still recover from the flu. Had a pretty good night last night thanks to the last minute announcement of Markieff Morris being out and being able to opt into Jason Smith across the board at 3,000 on DraftKings, which allowed me to cash basically everything I played, despite the fact that two of our three top plays in Avery Bradley and Giannis Antetokounmpo were just average. I can't remember offhand what Bradley is at, mid-20s maybe. Giannis was in 46 on DraftKings, which means he was probably 43, 44 on FanDuel. Definitely didn't come close there. Al Horford, though, did come through for us. I kind of knew that this was going to happen. Unfortunately, he was awful. I mean, just awful. The entire game only made value because of the fact that he had like 2 steals and 4 blocks. He had about 30 seconds of time within the fourth quarter where he had like 10 to 12 points of fantasy production, shot horribly from the field. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter how a guy shot from the field. All that matters is that the guy hit value. It's just that if he had done more with his shots, we could have been talking about 50 instead of 40 fantasy points. So, it is what it is. Moving on to tonight, let's look at some names that our module pops up for us as being good plays. We've got Chris Middleton, DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul. Wouldn't be shocked if Chris Paul sat. Tough to say there. I don't know if they're on a back-to-back or not, but we know that Blake and DeAndre sat on Thursday, I think it was, so wouldn't shock me. Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who truthfully I think I just have to be off at this point. He's not really producing. Blake Griffin, Mark Gasol. And that's pretty much where we land outside of the guys that I'm going to talk about. So, again, I don't really have a ton of preparation in terms of price, and I promise you we'll go back to that format tomorrow because it's just always helpful to have that. I am mostly looking at DraftKings prices because that's what I have in front of me. Let's start things off right now with Will Barton at 6,900. And look, I mean, I know that this is a price jump of like 1,600, I think, after his monster game. But you have to consider this is going to be an up-tempo matchup for the Nuggets. The Nuggets are not a bad basketball team by any stretch of the imagination. I understand they'll be missing Danilo Gallinari. They'll be missing Wilson Chandler. But Barton is an explosive player who could certainly still get the job done. I think that he'll have some people off him. I think his ownership was near 40% the other night. The recent price jump and potential availability of other value options in and around there could hinder his ownership. And while, you can't expect him to have a 50-point game every night, I think that we're definitely talking about 35 to 38 fantasy points being well within reason here. I know that doesn't hit, the 6 times value we'd like to get for tournaments, but I do think it does enough to really establish a safe floor with a pretty good ceiling. For our next play, I'm actually going to stay in the same game and on the same team. I think that this is going to be the game that the vast majority of tournament players target because not everybody's really expensive. So you can definitely make some interesting stacks with this game, including James Harden. But I am unable to look away at Mason Plumlee at just 6K. He's been starting. He's been getting minutes between 30 and 36. Obviously, Fareed coming back is going to hurt that a little bit. I like him at this price to hit value more than Jokic. I do think that Jokic is a higher ceiling player, but Plumlee is no slouch on his own. I think he can get the job done for sure. Houston does struggle with big men, and it's, even though his role has been diminished since moving from Portland to Denver, he's still an extremely talented player. One of the things he was touted about for season-long leagues coming in was the fact that he's a good facilitator and his assist numbers were going to grow this year, which they really have. And he has a potential to be something of a Jokic-like passer. Maybe not as skilled, but he can hold his own. Just looking at the DraftKings pricing, it's hard for me to look past John Wall tonight as our final player at just 9,300. I'm a little bit torn about how this game ends up. I think that the Wizards are playing such good ball, and the Hornets are so up and down, even with Nick Batum probably coming back. It's hard for me to want to believe that this game is going to stay close. But Wall, man, that's an attractive price for him. 9,300 puts him just over the 46.5 point mark for 5x value. You're talking about a situation where 55 is 6x value roughly. I mean, I could be overestimating it a little bit, but he didn't have to do anything on the offensive end last night. He was a strict facilitator. This is a great matchup for him. The Hornets are at home. I think they play a little better there. It's definitely possible that we could see Wall, put in 38 minutes. And I think you're talking 55 to 60 being the ceiling here. And at 9,300, I mean, he's almost a lock in the vast majority of my lineups. All right, thank you for joining us. That wraps it up for today. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Head over to researchfantasy.com. Sign up for our Fantasy NBA mailing list. Head over to Facebook, like us there. Follow us on Twitter @ResearchAndWin, and join us again tomorrow.